Welcome to that'scoolwire.com. In this video, what we're going to do is add a strip of or a length of EL wire to the under lip of this cabinet. So we're going to freestyle this, so you may see some mistakes and maybe some funny moments, but anyway, it's going to give you a great idea of how to take your project and add EL wire to it. You can think of this as the trunk of your car or a costume or anything like that. So we're going to kind of walk through the steps, but knowing what we're doing today, we've kind of brought some supplies. And we're not going to go through each one, but you can see we have a drill, a tape measure, we have some EL wire, we have some yarn, a heat gun, scissors, and stuff like that. So you'll see these tools being used as we shoot this video. So the next step is you can use yarn to measure how much EL wire is used, or you can use a tape measure. So if you're going to use yarn, let's just say we're going to go along that back edge and we want to go across. What we would do is we would just take this yarn, go all the way around, and then we would cut it, measure it, and then we would know exactly how much EL wire there is to use. So in this case, since we're only doing a straight line, we're just going to take the tape measure and we're going to measure it. And then the next step is, you're going to decide what color you want, and then you're going to cut that length to it and put a connector on it. So that's what we're going to do next. All right. So what we just did was we went ahead and just straightened the wire out that's underneath here. We just kind of really secured it with a double-sided tape. And then what we did is we put a little bit of clear tape on top of here too to kind of hold it from underneath. So it just reinforced it. So we're going to come over to this side right now. And we're just going to show you that lead wire is hanging here. So if you kind of look down here, the EL wire ended, and then we have this lead wire here. So we are going to drill a hole through here to get this lead wire through. And the other thing that we're going to do eventually in this video is put a switch right here. So when they want to turn this on, they just have to push it and push it again to turn it off. So the first thing we're going to deal with right now is we need to get power inside of here. And what we're going to end up doing is showing you how we did it for this particular application. So now for the power, we have to power the inverter up. We have two choices. There's a plug right to the right of the cabinet, but when we looked underneath there, we saw that there was a garbage disposal and there was an extra outlet that was open, so we plugged in the 12-volt wall transformer into there. We got lucky. There was a gap behind the back wall of this cabinet and the cement wall on the back, so we just ran the wire behind the cabinet, and I'll show you that right now. So here's the gap that I'm talking about. So we were able to take that power supply wall transformer wire, run it behind, and now we're going to run this inside, and we're going to show you how to do that next. If you didn't have a gap, then maybe you would have thought about using this wall outlet, ran this wire down, cut across, and maybe drill a hole on the side of here to get this wire through. But again, we went and used this method, so you won't see any wires at all. So now what we're going to do is bring this wire into the cabinet because we need power down there to power the inverter. So what I'm going to do next is drill a hole back there, and I have a really good idea of where I need to drill this hole, so let's go ahead and we'll do that. So I think I'm going to pick this spot right about here, and I kind of really feel like this will be a good spot to do it. So there's the hole that we're going to snake that wire through. So now we're going to try to grab as we're trying to find that hole and snake it through. We're getting it. We're getting it. So now you can see that we have power inside this cabinet. So the one thing we're keeping in mind is we have a drawer here, so we don't really want to be in this spot. So we really want to be below this railing. So what we're going to do next, when you come back, we're just going to tape this to the sidewall. So it'll be just the wire will be out of the way. So as I repeat it again, we already have the EL wire hooked up. We have the lead wire that we have to drill a hole and get it through this cabinet. And then once that's done, we're just going to add the inverter. We're going to show you how to wire this to a switch and then get the power connected, and then we should be done. So eventually we're going to take this inverter, we put some Velcro on this side, and what we're going to do is just stick it to the side below the cabinet so it's not in the way of anything like that. But the next step, what we're going to do is drill 2 holes on the side to get this wire through for the EL wire, and then we're going to drill another hole for the switch. So now we're going to take this wire that's coming from the EL wire and drill through the side of the cabinet. So you want to get it up high as you can so you don't maybe see the little hole. So we're just going to try to feel underneath. And I think this spot's going to be a good spot right about here. So there's our hole. Take the wire and we're going to twist these ends. And shove it through. Okay, so that wire is inside, and I can see that I'm pulling it out from the other side, so we know that that's inside. The next one is going to be the switch. So what I'm going to do now is take this switch and we're going to mount it in here. So we know we already have a switch issue in that this switch has threads on it, and it has a nut on it that if this was thin enough, you can push this through so the threads would be on the other side, and then you can tighten it so it's held in place. But the wood is thicker, and when we push it through, all the threads are covered, so there's going to be nothing for us to grab it with the nut. So all we're going to do is drill the hole. We're going to get some hot glue once we put this in, and then we'll squirt some hot glue in there to really hold it in, and then we may go from the other side and add a little bit more. But we're going to do all of our wiring out here before we do that. So the first thing we just want to do is just go ahead and add our switch. So if I'm standing up here, I kind of want to conceal the switch as well. We want to make it clean, so we'll just pick something like right below. All right, so we're going to go here, and it doesn't matter if I go to this side a little bit or in the center. So you know what, I'll just pick this, and we're going to drill through. So this switch again is going to fit a little bit loose in here, but that's what it's going to look like when we're done. So the next step we're going to do is we're going to add this inverter since we have our power in there already, but you never work with anything where the power is connected. So let's just look underneath here for a second and see if that wall transformer is still plugged in. And it is. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to unplug it and just leave it there for right now. So I'm going to really try not to confuse you. So the only really confusing part, but it's going to be shown in this video so you'll see how to do it, is when you add a switch to the cabinet or any of your applications, there's 2 connectors here. There's the round barrel jack, that's the DC power in, that's the side you want to add your switch to. Because the output of an EL wire inverter is 120 volts, it's high voltage, and these are not high voltage switches, so you never want to put the switch on the EL wire side. You always want to put it on the DC side. So we're going to show you how to do that right now. So we're going to come back down here right now, and we had a little bit of Velcro here that we're going to stick to the side of the cabinet. So let's go down here. I'm going to peel this. And right now I'm going to pick a spot below, because remember the cabinet's here, we don't want anything in the way. And I'm just going to stick it right there. Again, we know that we're going to have to take the DC side, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this, go behind this rail, because we know again that that little pull-out drawer is right there, and I'm going to shove it through the bigger of the two holes, the one the switch is going to be in. So now let's go to the other side real quick. So what we did is through this hole, we went ahead and pushed the wire from the inverter, which was the power inside, through it. And we're going to pick a spot about this far. And all we did was we separated the wires. There's two wires here. There's one with has a white marking on it, so it's the black wire with the white marking, and then the solid black. So we're just going to take the solid black wire, and that's the only one we're going to cut, not both of them. And that's why we turned the power off. We didn't want to do that. So we're going to take this, we're going to strip it, we're going to strip it, we're going to twist these. You have to put on your shrink tubing first. Oop, I dropped that one, but we have more. And I'm going to put those two on there. And the switch is very simple. It only has two prongs on it, or two tips. And it doesn't matter which wire goes to which one, but we're going to put one here and the other one here. We're going to twist them and we're going to solder those on. So what we just did is we went ahead and soldered on the two wires to the switch. Again, this is the side of the inverter that you put the DC power in. We separated the wires. We only cut one of them, so we left the wire with the white marking not cut. We spliced those two, put one on one side, one on the other side, and all we're going to do now is put shrink tubing on here. We have our heat gun. I'm going to turn it on. Let it heat up. And I'm going to slowly just start shrinking that. Okay, get it good. Make sure those are nice and up there and tight. There's no exposed wires. So that's a really, really clean way to do it. You can twist them on there and put shrink tubing on, but we really highly recommend if you can solder it. It just gives you a really nice long-term bond. So now what we're going to do is come right down here, and I'm just going to take the DC plug side in. I'm going to shove it back through the hole, and we're going to just take everything and put it in. And so there's the switch. So I know that that's loose. I mean, I can push it in and it's no problem at all, but I want to tighten it up a little bit. So I'm going to bring it out a little bit, and I'm going to start putting some hot glue in here. Okay, and I'm going to go on this side. And I'm going to push this switch in. Bam. And then all right, I know we're getting a little bit too detailed, but so right now we have a bunch of wires there. So the next step, all I want to do now is clean up the wires and deal with the last two wires. So if you remember, the EL wire came through and had a lead wire on the end. This is it. This wire is attached to this EL wire. We're going to add a connector to that, but that's going to be the next step. Once we put a connector on that, that's going to get connected to this connector, which comes from the inverter. So once the inverter plugs into the EL wire and we already hooked it to the switch, all we got to do is push it and the power will come on once we plug it back up in from underneath the cabinet. All I'm going to do next is clean up these wires and add a connector to the end of this wire. So we went ahead to save some time and we already soldered this one on. We slid the shrink tubing over the solder joint. Here's the second one we soldered. We wanted to show you that. We're going to slide that over. And now we're going to get the heat gun. Ramon's going to heat it up. So we kind of spin it so the heat. And if you don't have a heater, you can use like a little bit of a lighter. If you have black tape, you can wrap it, but we really highly recommend if you can solder it. So we make sure that kind of cools down a little bit. We'll take the larger shrink tubing and just kind of make it nice and clean. And we're going to shrink this. So we had some shrink tubing here, this larger one that we just kind of stretched out a little bit. It was probably large enough to work, but we just wanted to give it some extra room so it slides over easily. So we just keep spinning it. I want to squeeze that a little bit, and we're going to let that cool down. So we have this. This is coming from the inverter. This is going to the EL wire. Okay, we're going to plug this in. To save time on this video, we will clean these wires up later, but I'm just going to tuck them off to the side. I am now going to get the drawer, put the drawer back in to make sure that nothing's in the way. So that's what we're going to do. I can see that that's moving nice and freely. So we're going to shut this, and we're so confident that this is going to work that we're just going to turn the lights off right now. As you can see, we turned the lights off, and I use this paper here to show you the glow. We're using the blue-green wire. The reason I'm actually using the paper, our camera kind of loses focus, so when we were shooting this, the wire was going in and out of focus. The camera wasn't quite sure what to focus on. So we put the paper here, one, to show you the glow of the EL wire, and then also to help the camera focus. But this is what it looks like with the light off. So what I'm going to do right now is I'm going to turn the switch off so you can see that the glow went away. I'm going to go turn the lights on in the room so you can see the true color of the EL wire. So I'm going to flip the switch back on. There's the blue-green wire. We're just going to zoom in a little bit to the edge so you can see it. But give us a call toll-free, 866-435-9473. That's 866-435-9473. We'd love to talk to you. Visit us at that'scoolwire.com. We have so many services now. We have 3D printing. We do doming. We can help you with your wire needs. So again, we really would just love to hear from you. And thanks for watching this video.